There's something deliberate about the moment you stop scrolling and clicked on this. You're not here for entertainment. You're here for confirmation. Because lately something's been happening that you can't quite name. You know exactly where you want to go. You can see it so clearly it feels like memory instead of imagination. But you're not there yet. And that gap, that space between where you are and where you're becoming, it's starting to feel unbearable. Some mornings you wake up electric, absolutely certain that today everything clicks. Other mornings you can barely move because it feels like you're running in place, burning yourself out while going nowhere. And you're starting to wonder if maybe you're the exception, the one person for whom it doesn't work out. But if you're seeing this, soon it's all about to make sense. Not because I'm predicting your future, because you're standing in the exact phase that precedes every breakthrough. The phase nobody talks about. The one that separates people who make it from people who quit. You're in the eclipse. And this message only appears for people standing in that specific darkness. Let me tell you what's really happening right now. You're living in two realities at the same time. There's the reality you can see, the one where you're still building, still struggling, still waiting for proof that any of this is working. And then there's the reality you can feel, the one where the version of you that already has everything you're working toward exists. Not as fantasy, as fact. You can sense them. You know they're real. You know you're becoming them. But the distance between those two versions, between who you are and who you're turning into, that's the gap. And it's disorienting. Because some days the future version feels so close, you make decisions from that place. You move with certainty. You feel unstoppable. And then other days, the current version feels so heavy, so inadequate, so impossibly far behind that you can't imagine ever closing that distance, that oscillation, that emotional whiplash between knowing and doubting. That's not evidence something's wrong. That's evidence you're exactly where transformation happens. Because here's what nobody tells you about growth. It's not this steady upward climb where you feel a little better, a little stronger, a little more certain each day. It's chaos. It's 3 days of clarity followed by 2 weeks of fog. It's a massive leap forward followed by a month where it feels like nothing's moving. And your mind is desperate to make sense of it, to find the pattern, to predict when the breakthrough finally comes. But you can't predict it. You can only keep moving through it. And movement doesn't look like motivation. It looks like showing up on days you don't feel like it. It looks like taking action when you have zero proof it's working. It looks like choosing the difficult right over the easy wrong, even when no one's watching. That's what you've been doing. Maybe you haven't given yourself credit for it. Maybe you've been so obsessed with how far you still have to go that you haven't noticed how far you've already come. But you're doing it. You're in it. And the fact that you're exhausted, that some days feel impossible, that's not failure. That's the weight of carrying two versions of yourself simultaneously. The old one dissolving, the new one forming. Of course, you're tired. You're holding both. Let me show you what's actually happening. Imagine a total solar eclipse. For months, you can see the sun. It's there, shining, predictable. And then the moon begins to move into position. Slowly, incrementally, the light starts to dim. At first, it's subtle. You barely notice. But as the alignment continues, the darkness grows. And then, right before totality, right before complete alignment, You're plunged into shadow. The sun is still there, still burning, still radiating the same light it always has, but from where you're standing, it's blocked and hidden. And if you didn't understand what an eclipse was, if you didn't know this was temporary, you'd think the sun was gone forever. You'd panic. You'd think something catastrophic happened. But nothing happened to the sun. It's a positioning issue. The moon is between you and the light. And once the alignment completes, once the moon passes through, the light doesn't gradually return. It floods back. Instant. Overwhelming. Undeniable. Because you're in the eclipse right now. The breakthrough you're working toward, the life you're building, the version of yourself you're becoming, they're still there, still real, still happening. They're just blocked from your view while everything moves into position. And the darkest part, the part where you can't see any light at all, that's not the moment you should quit. That's the moment right before totality, right before everything aligns and the light floods back. And here's what makes the eclipse so brutal. You can feel the alignment happening. You can sense that you're close, but you can't see it yet. And that knowing without seeing, that's where most people break. They interpret the darkness as evidence they were wrong, that it's not coming, that they're not built for this. So they turn around, they walk away, they leave right before the alignment completes, right before the light returns. But you're still here, still reading, still searching for confirmation that the darkness is temporary. And that searching, that refusal to quit even when you can't see the light, that's not doubt, that's faith. Uncomfortable, messy, exhausted faith. But faith nonetheless. Because if you'd truly given up, you wouldn't still be asking when. You'd have already walked away. The fact that you're still in it, still showing up, still willing to endure the not knowing, that proves you understand something deeper than your doubt. You know, this is temporary. You know, the alignment is happening. You're just desperate for it to hurry up and complete. Now let me give you something practical, because I know you're tired of vague encouragement. You need a framework you can actually use. Stop measuring your progress by how you feel. Feelings are liars. They fluctuate based on sleep, comparison, stress, 1,000 variables that have nothing to do with whether you're actually moving forward. Instead, measure your progress by what you did, not how it felt while you did it, just what you did. Did you show up today? Even if it was messy, even if it felt pointless, even if you barely accomplished anything. You showed up. That's movement. Did you take one action, any action, that inched you closer to where you want to be? You did. That's a little alignment. Did you not quit? Did you wake up and keep going even though part of you wanted to stop? You did. That's everything. The eclipse phase isn't measured by milestones. It's measured by persistence, by the decision to keep standing under the shadow even when you can't see the sun. And you've been doing that, even on the days it didn't feel like enough. Here's the part most people miss. The eclipse isn't punishment, it's preparation. During totality, during that moment of complete darkness, something spectacular happens. The corona becomes visible. That outer atmosphere of the sun that's normally too bright to see, it becomes the most beautiful thing in the sky. But you can only see it in the darkness. You can only witness it during the eclipse. The same is true for you right now. The lessons you're learning in this phase, the strength you're building, the character you're forging, you can only develop these things in the darkness. Once the light returns, Once you break through to the other side, you'll have something most people never acquire. You'll have proof that you can endure the eclipse, that you can stand in the shadow and trust the alignment is happening even when you can't see it. That makes you dangerous, not to others, to your own limitations, because if you can survive this, you can survive anything. The eclipse isn't delaying your success. It's building the foundation strong enough to hold it. And here's what nobody warns you about. The people who've made it to where you're trying to go, every single one of them stood in this exact eclipse. The gap between knowing and seeing. The space where belief and doubt trade places every other day. The phase where they were doing everything right and seeing no immediate proof. They all lived here. And they all thought the same thing you're thinking right now. Maybe I'm different. Maybe it works for everyone else, but not me. Maybe I missed my timing. Maybe I don't have what it takes. But they stayed anyway. Not because they were more confident than you, but because they didn't let the doubt make the decision. They let the action make the decision. And that's the only difference between you and them right now. They're on the other side of the eclipse, and you're still standing in the shadow, but you're not frozen. You're moving, and as long as you keep moving, you'll get there. It's not a question of if. It's only ever been a question of when. And the answer to when is closer than your circumstances currently reflect. Now, if this landed, if you felt that recognition that you're in the eclipse and the light is still there even though you can't see it yet, I need you to do something. Go to the comments and type 4 words. I'm in the eclipse. That's it. No explanation, no story, just that declaration. Because when you name where you are, when you claim your position in the darkness without shame, something shifts. It stops being a private crisis and becomes a shared experience. And if you know someone standing in the shadow, someone questioning whether they should keep going, share this with them. Ask them to declare it too. I'm in the eclipse. Because sometimes we need to hear that we're not the only ones in the dark. That there's a whole community of people standing under the same shadow. Not because the sun died, but because the alignment is happening. If this resonated, subscribe so we can keep walking this path together. And if Super Thanks feels right, every bit helps me create content that actually matters instead of just fill space. But real talk, you being here, present, listening, I never take that for granted. Thank you. The truth is, you're closer than you think. Closer than your feelings want you to believe. Closer than your circumstances currently show. The gap between where you are and where you're going is smaller than it's ever been. Not because time passed, but because you changed. You grew. You became someone different than who you were when you started this journey. And that growth, that transformation, that's what completes the alignment. Not luck, not timing, not circumstances magically shifting. You, becoming the person who doesn't need to see the sun to know it's still there. Who doesn't need constant proof to keep moving. Who doesn't need the whole path revealed to take the next step. That person is forming right now, in the eclipse, in the doubt, in the days you showed up anyway. And when you finally break through, when the light floods back and you're standing on the other side, you'll understand. The eclipse wasn't the obstacle. It was the answer. It was where you became who you needed to be. So let me ask you something before this moment passes. How much longer are you going to let the temporary darkness convince you the sun is gone? How many more days will you spend interpreting the eclipse as abandonment when it's actually Alignment. The light is still there. It never left. It's just blocked while everything moves into position. And the fact that you're exhausted, that you're doubting, that you're standing here desperate for confirmation, that's not weakness. That's you refusing to leave before the alignment completes. That's you choosing to stand in the shadow because you know what's coming. So stand there. Keep standing. Keep showing up. Because the darkest part of the eclipse is always right before totality. Right before the light returns. And you're not standing in permanent darkness. You're standing in the final shadow before everything you've been working toward floods into view. The alignment is happening. The sun never stopped shining. And soon, sooner than you think, it's all about to make sense.